Hello, everybody. This is Addison Shanland at AirInsight. Today is April 6th, 2021, and I'm joined with my usual guests, Nitin Sarin from Sarin & Co. and Vinny Longani from Sarin & Co. also. Both gentlemen are in India. Thank you for visiting with me again, gentlemen, and let's catch up with what's going on. What's the update in India with respect to the leasing ecosystem, which we last covered? That looked like a really interesting story.
Thank you for having us again, Addison. It's a pleasure to be here. Well, since we spoke last, there have been a lot of amendments to our laws to promote aircraft leasing from within India. So the present government has taken it on as a pet project to, get Indian money involved into aircraft financing, get foreign money involved also to come into India to set up leasing companies or financing companies in the IFSC, which is, the financial zone, which is considered as not territory in India for the purposes of, providing aircraft finance products. So, I'm not going to bore everyone with the legal and tax jargon, but essentially they've amended a whole bunch of our tax laws to permit companies from to set up and to do this in a very tax efficient method. But there's still a lot of groundwork that is remaining, which needs to be catered to. And as of now, my personal opinion is that we're not going to see a lot of the large boys aircraft leasing companies come in. It's going to be smaller projects for helicopters, etc., that will pave the way for a larger ecosystem. So but the aim and the ultimate objective of the government is very clear: to have a self-sustaining, self-sufficient aircraft leasing ecosphere where the money can be either from overseas or from India, but the asset should be owned by an Indian entity and leased to an Indian operator or a foreign.
I think it's going to be a very interesting idea if that works, because it's going to be the kind of model that would work for many other places. I know, for example, one of our colleagues is based in Lagos, Nigeria, and he wrote a story for us yesterday about how Nigerian airlines have been sending their airplanes out of the country for MRO work, but the country has run out of currency. I don't know if you know this, that they've decided to ban cryptocurrency, Bitcoin specifically, in Nigeria, because Nigerians are quite smart when it comes to moving money. In case you ever got those emails from that prince that wanted to send you a whole bunch of money. Anyway, he's not related to me either. He's probably not related to anybody. Anyway, so he wrote to tell us that it's interesting that it's dangerous to drive there, because some of the areas are a little bit like Wild West. And flying now has become difficult because there are not enough planes. And so airfares in some markets are up 50%. And you're dealing with a market that can't afford flights at the best of times. So, there's a case again of a domestic market that is struggling because of the dollar-denominated cost impact for commercial aviation.
I know exactly where they're coming from. We've been an exchange-controlled country for decades. Did you know for example, when my parents went to the United States for their honeymoon, this was in the mid 70s. They were allowed to take a grand total of $4 per person. It was that's how restricted it was at that point in time. And now, thankfully, we have hundreds of billions of dollars worth of foreign exchange reserve.
Right.
So things have changed, but it is still a nightmare to remit foreign exchange from India, and it's precisely for that reason.
Wow. So let's talk about the recovery of the domestic aviation market in India. What I have been doing some analysis using January 2019 as the base year, making that base month, making that 100. What I see for the US through March is that the US has popped up to 64.5, which is an amazing recovery. We seem to be accelerating here. China through the end of December was at 89.4, which is actually interestingly down from what they were in October. But India is interesting, through February, 62.8. That's a big recovery.
Indeed. In fact, before we touch on that topic, It's very interesting because I've spoken to a number of friends who are in the United States and family who are, terribly scared of flying because no one knows what's going to happen. But something which is slightly related to this increase in the number of passengers flying is because of very good rules that have come into place by the Indian DGCA. And I have just a small example here. So whenever you fly, you get this small package from each airline. So they mandated, the one I have here is from Vistara, where you have this, a plastic shield which you have to put around your face. You've got a mask and you have a little bottle of sanitizer. And in fact, for passengers who are seated in the middle row, you have to put on a whole cloak, a disposable sort of cloak which they hand out. And I believe we are one of the only countries in the world who are actually doing this. And kudos to our authorities. Yes, it's a waste of plastic, no doubt about that. But at the same time, these are the small, uh, regulations that have come into place, which are increasing the passenger confidence. And for the rest, I'm going to let Vin take this, and at the end, I'll share a short experience of international versus domestic travel in the earlier this month.
Yeah. Well, I mean, interestingly, India crossed that threshold of adding 100,000 COVID cases a day before. So, this is the highest since the beginning of the pandemic. And surprisingly, we still flew 250 odd thousand passengers, about 60 odd percent of pre-COVID numbers on the same day. So, it's because of these measures that have been put in, and also because of the fact that it's very difficult to enforce COVID protocols on the trains and on other modes of transport like buses. So airlines still seem to be able to get bums on seats because of all of that. So yeah, I mean, we're doing reasonably well. We reached close to 80% odd of pre-COVID capacity a couple of weeks ago. And the hope was, had there not been a surge in the cases, we would have sort of reached pre-COVID capacity levels well by this time. However, given the surge in COVID cases, I personally feel we're doing fairly better, greatly so, purely because of one, the measures that have been put in, and also because it's just impossible to enforce these COVID protocols on the trains or on buses. So people just feel safe when they're traveling by air. Right. So, and I mean, I'll give you an example. Imagine flights between Delhi and Goa, for example. We have 20 flights a day between Delhi and Goa now. And I mean, that's approximately 3,600 odd people traveling one way every day. And most of these flights are packed. So, people are holiday starved, people are traveling on holidays, despite the fact that, COVID seems to be back. I mean, so I guess there are benefits of having a huge domestic population and demand for travel. I mean, international remains closed largely. So I guess, I guess we seem to be holding up.
And to agree with you, Vin, the thing is, people are not getting COVID because of that flight. It's because they're being silly. They're getting off that flight, throwing away their masks, throwing away everything, yeah, and just not, caring. So.
Yeah, interesting. It's interesting that there seems to be a bounce back pretty much across the board. I've not been able to get any European data yet, but I think that this recovery is going to catch many of us by surprise.
It is. Yeah. In fact, I flew to Goa in January this year, and I've done a couple of Delhi flights, and it's packed. Lounges are full, and queues are back, to being full, long snake sort of queues everywhere. And it's a bit intimidating, to be very honest, because you're not used to being so close to other people, especially, city people who've got their mask down here with their nose sticking out. But then on the other hand, I did a Dubai late last month, and I was the only person at immigration. I was the only person at immigration. We were 122 passengers on a Boeing 777-300ER.
That's amazing.
And just completely empty. So it just shows, and I messaged Vin and I was like, our, uh, our airline industry has been so lucky that we have this population that's keeping it afloat, that, they will survive on some level. And that's the first sort of positivity that I saw just by seeing the number.
But then there is also something that one must keep in mind, numbers do lie. Business traffic, people who actually pay top dollar for flying, the ones who buy last minute tickets, those people aren't really flying. So it's largely leisure traffic, where people are looking for deals. And a lot of the times they're just flying back home and they don't really have an option. So, full service airlines with business cabins or premium economy cabins, they continue to struggle. I mean, it's the low cost airlines which are able to fill up their planes. So, and even for low cost airlines, the business segment is a huge, part of their revenue stream. So that revenue is not coming back anytime soon because no corporates are letting their people fly, given that we have 100,000 COVID cases, adding those many cases a day. So yes, I mean, on the whole, the numbers look encouraging, but yeah, there is more to it. But yes, like Nitin said, I completely agree. It's keeping us going. And, our airlines seem to be surviving, which is what is important.
So to jump onto that subject quickly, Air India, are the Tatas going to buy it or they're not going to buy it?
Wow. If I had a crystal ball, I would be able to tell you if they would or not. I mean, it is widely known that, that they put in a bid, but how and what shape will this take, given that they are now majority owners of AirAsia India, and I mean, what happens to Vistara? Will the Singaporeans come on board? So it's very complex when you look at it, and only the Tatas know as to what they'd make out of it, and what sort of a plan they have in store.
The latest that the news had was that the Tatas were sitting with the ministry, with the government, and trying to sort things out, the way forward. But apart from that, everyone's completely in the dark.
Right. I would imagine Air India comes with a lot of baggage. But let me rephrase that. A lot of people, unnecessary people that, state airlines invariably are the place to put your voters and your supporters.
That's what this report said. That's one of the key pressing items. That and retirement benefits and
culture. I mean, how do you align AirAsia India with Air India, or just how do you align Air India with anybody, or Air India with Vistara if they were all to come together? Right. I mean, there's going to be a culture clash like one we've never seen before. Right. So I mean, if they do get into it, they have their work cut out. One would really wish them well.
And it's interesting, just not to drag this out, but there are very good things in the Air India history. The reliability of the company, the way the company's performed operationally, they've done very well, and it's not all bad news. However, there is another brand that's been attracting some attention left and right. Jet. Is Jet Airways ever going to come back, or are we done with that story?
The silence is
again. Let me get my crystal ball out again, and I'll definitely be able to tell you if they're coming back on.
To give you an honest answer, I think Vin is absolutely correct. No one knows, but they are at a stage where the court has to approve the plan that's been given by the potential new investor. So that's once the court gives a stamp, the new investors will step into the shoes of the Jet Airways management, and that's when the ball will start getting rolling. But we are still, they're fighting about slots, because initially the government said that we will keep the slots for X amount of time, but the process has taken so long. We are already at year number 2 now.
Right.
It was April of 2019 when they started functioning. So the government is also fairly justified in saying that, hey guys, we can't just keep all those slots for so long. So that I believe is the issue that's being discussed. Again, we are not we're not privy to any of those discussions, but that's where we stand. Let's see. As every day passes, it loses more and more charm for the prospective buyers. They may have full, good intentions, but at the same time, they want to get cracking. You want to start working on your project, and every day that you do that, it's just causing you a lot of loss. And very interestingly, the other suitor who was in the race for Jet Airways has allegedly now announced that they're going to buy True Jet, which is a small regional airline based
Right,
in
I
Hyderabad.
saw that. Right.
Yeah. So let's see. Let's see where things go. The Indian aviation industry is still very attractive. Whoever gets Jet will get a lot of goodwill. Um, but at the same time, it's you have to see, does it make sense to do that, or does it make sense to just start your own airline?
And I mean, this has a direct bearing on the Air India sale. I mean, how many we're a graveyard for full service airlines, this country, where we have some of the highest costs and some of the cheapest fares. So are we a market for full service airlines? We already have one which is run by two very established brands, and it loses money every day. It's lost money for the last 6 years and will continue to do so. Air India is the same. So do they want to bring back Jet as a full service airline? And is there room for 3 full service airlines? I don't think so. So something's got to give. And I guess we'll just have to wait and see what happens.
Gentlemen, it's been great to chat with you. Another gripping episode.
Always.
In the vagaries of India's commercial aviation. Look forward to chatting with you again all soon.
Absolutely. You take care. Bye-bye.
Bye.